Hello everyone. Today I have the April 2023 Simon Says Stamp Kit of the Month. Let's take a look what's in here. From what I remember, this kit is loaded. So let's see. Ooh. Pull it all out. Candy. Blue raspberry. Ooh, that'll turn your tongue a nice color. I have a collection. I don't know how old some of these are, but I've been collecting them. Delicious. Whenever I get the mood for, you know, something sweet, come in here and see. Just grab one. Oh, look at that. Some reverse tweezers. I could use another pair of those because I have a pair that's kind of gunky with adhesive, so I can keep this one not gunky. And, oh, these are gorgeous. It's hard to explain how gorgeous these are in real life. They're gold with kind of a coppery iridescent. Love them. And then we get a neat little bag, which we have colored pencils to store in. These are Bright and Vivid Colorista by Spectrum Noir. Nice. I may or may not have to use these. I have some tri-blends from Spectrum Noir I want to use for coloring. At least try to. I want to try to do some coloring this kit. We have some adhesive foam strips here. Nice, can always use those. Great for pop-ups or just, you know, sentiments. Look at these Tim Holtz Idea-ology. They are transparent layers. I am sure you have seen these in other videos. If not, they are gorgeous, and I will be showing you some of these at least on a card. I think when I want to use one on a card, so maybe I'll kind of go through them real quick for the card that I do use them on. I don't want to waste a lot of time going through them right now. And we've got our little coupon. WLD for you, save $5, love it. We have a nice white envelope and a nice kind of, I think it's a smoky gray slimline envelope. Let me see, probably tell me if I look. The color on it, white, and it just says mini slim line, doesn't tell you the color. But I have seen some makers use this for a slimline card, just this cover sheet, and that would be really great. So should we look at this? Should we look at these pattern papers? Sure, why not? Just because I really want to see them. If you don't want to see them, you can always jump ahead. But I'd love for you to stay and just listen to me ramble, because that's what I do best. These pretty ginkgo leaves. Oh, these are single-sided. That makes it really fun. You don't have to decide what to use. But that is definitely going to be fun to use for a card. Here. Beautiful. Oh, come on, don't stick on me. A nice little grid pattern, that's fun. A tone on tone. It's got like kind of a pinkish red with little dots in the background. A beautiful floral, green and black and pinks, and really nice. Now this is fun. Little dots made of dots. We've got, I'm not sure what you'd call that, kind of organic, leafy, I don't know, it's cool, I like it. These look like either little rosebuds or tulips or, you know, beautiful either way. That kind of reminds me of a dandelion seed pods, but it's very pretty. Some more greenery, black, green, white, green background, real pale. That's kind of a fun geographic pattern almost, I guess. And more polka dots. Fun. Love these. Put those away and eat it. Let's take a look at this. This is what I was looking forward to. Look at this stamp set. Oh my gosh. Sending from all of us, wishing you it's your day, lots of thanks, love and hugs, happy thoughts, happy birthday, and these beautiful, beautiful poppies and some greenery. I am going to color these. I do not do a lot of coloring on my cards, but I am going to color with these. And we get a stamp envelope to hold our stamp, which is good because I have exactly one stamp set that I do not have an envelope at all for, Simon says. So I'm going to be putting this to good use. And then we have, I believe this is called Lipstick Red. And so it's Lipstick Red, and let me see, come on, what color is it? And well, Nina White, right? And Slate. And yeah, Nina Solar White 110 and Slate. Sorry that took so long to read. I'm just like trying to find it. And in case I didn't mention, which, okay, I know I didn't mention, the name of this kit is Poppy Perfection. And you've got like some beautiful inspiration here. And that's what I said about using this, that pattern paper for a slimline card, which I would love to do, but then I would be copying. So I'm not quite sure. You know, sometimes you look at this inspiration and it's like, well, I want to do that, but I don't want to do that if I'm making a video. Unless, of course, you guys want to see me try to copy some of this and probably fail miserably. Anyway, let's make some cards. For this first card here, I've got it sped up quite a bit because I am definitely going to be doing some coloring. I am taking the Nina Solar White paper. I've got an A2 size cutout here, 5.5 by 4.25. And I am going to put a bunch of these poppies all over it. And as you see, I'm putting them on my piece of white paper, not patterned. And I am going to be rearranging. I guess it's not sped up quite as much as I thought it was here. I know when I start coloring, I speed it up like 8 times. Because, you know, otherwise we would be here for 3 hours watching me color, and nobody wants that. So I'm rearranging these on my card front, and I'm trying to figure out exactly where I'm going to put them. I am going to be cutting down this card just a little bit, so I'm not ultra concerned about them not being all the way at the bottom. And I'm just trying to fill up this entire space with poppies while leaving room for the sentiment. Now I've got the one I'm putting off to the side there, and I've got one on the bottom, and now I'm going to put a little bitty bud. I thought about trying to put some more greenery. Of course, I'm making sure my happy birthday is going to fit at the top there. I am not going to stamp that quite yet. I will do that after all my coloring is done. I just want to make sure I leave room for it. And there I'm squeezing in that little bud. So I've got this really filled out nicely. And I'm going to use some Hero Intense Black ink on that because it works really nicely with the alcohol markers that I'm going to be using. I'm using like my Misty sticky mat right here, so it will hold down my cardstock without shifting. I just got to make sure it stays in the corner there because that sticky mat's not a real tight fit, so you have to make sure your mat is in the corner when you restamp. I think I will show myself stamping this once, but I do end up stamping it 2 or 3 times just to make sure I've got good coverage. And again, I cut it out, me stamping multiple times, because you know what that looks like. Now I've got a little stamp chamois here I'm just cleaning the ink off with. And I am going to take my background off of the Misty. Eventually we'll get to it. So I hope everybody's having a good end of winter, beginning of spring type of deal. I'm in Illinois, and it's been in the 50s the last few days, and it's sunny, so that's nice. That's always a big plus in my book, because too many gray days is depressing. So I've got these tri-blend, and the reason I bought these, I've got Copics, but I struggle finding, what 3 I'm going to use. And I know it shouldn't be hard, but these have the 3 colors right there. Like I've got the dark red, and mid-tone red, all in one marker. And I'm starting coloring in the center. This is real time right here. You can see it's kind of going slow. And real time, or 2 times, I'm not even sure. But at any rate, I'm going around the outside. I'm using my dark marker first, because then I can just go over with the lighter markers, and I find it a little easier. Now here I am. Now this is way sped up. You can tell the difference when I sped it up. And I do use all 3 colors on this marker. I use the mid, the dark, and the light. And I think you go over it, and so you get a really good blend. And some areas blend a little better than others, but with the Poppies, I love the way the dark insides look. And I bring out a brown for the inside of the Poppies. And I start out using a limey green, but I end up not liking it, so I pull in my other green marker. And I could look at the actual shades of these markers, which, yeah, I think I use the light green blend. There's actually a dull green blend too. There's like 6 different green shades, and I think I just pulled out 2. And I didn't use the citrus green. That's the one I originally started with, and then went over it with, I think, the light green blend instead. And other than that, all my Poppies and my greenery is colored the same way. Now with the greenery, I just slapped down some dark areas, and then slapped down some medium areas, and then went with the light marker over all of it to try to get a blend. Now this Poppy in particular, I think I get my least blend on, but I do try. And I think it still turns out really pretty when I'm done. And it's just, with this coloring, it's just a matter of practice. And even then, if you think it doesn't look good, it probably does. I think sometimes too many of us are perfectionists when it comes to this kind of thing. And if it doesn't look perfect, we want to just start all over. And trust me, if I can do this, anybody can, because I am not the best colorist. You ever notice, though, when you're opening Copics or even these pens, sometimes if you're not careful, you'll get little spots of alcohol ink that just kind of flicks on the paper. You can see there's one like next to one of my Poppies, which I try to take a colors blender and get off, erase it, but that doesn't work too much, which is why I do end up splattering these, just because I've got a couple ink spots that I want to hide a bit. And I always forget, when you take a cap off an alcohol marker, try to take it off to the side so you don't end up getting little splatters accidentally on your coloring. So now I have got my little Tim Holtz box, and I am putting a little mask over where I want my happy birthday to be, because I don't want great big splotches of paint over where I am going to heat emboss happy birthday. So I've got my little mask just made with a post-it note, and I'm going to use some gold watercolor paint. This is just a cheap palette that I bought from Amazon. And I keep not putting enough fluid in there. And I wish I would have got it a lot more fluid as it was. My little flecks of gold paint are very small. I don't get the variety of different sizes that I was going for. It still looks good, but it's not exactly the look I wanted. I don't know if I should buy like a new fan brush to try, or, you know, or just, I can never get splatter the way I want my splatter to look. So I don't do a whole lot of splatter for that matter. Hey, that was rhyming, splatter for that matter. I like it. So now I am going to put the happy birthday up there, and I'm going to use some VersaFine Onyx Black ink to stamp this out. And the reason I'm doing that is because I do want a black heat embossed sentiment, but if I use black embossing powder, most likely I'll get it everywhere. And I forgot to use my anti-static bag like normal. And so I am just going to pour a little bit of clear embossing powder over this happy birthday. And the wonderful thing with clear is if it gets little speckles elsewhere, you're not really going to see it, which is a good thing when you don't use your anti-static bag. And I was careful not to get it on my poppies either, because even though I believe they're dry, you know, I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to tempt fate by trying to get clear embossing powder on my colored poppies. So I've got that beautiful, beautiful font with that happy birthday. And you saw me off to the side there trying to get my my nesting dies. I was going to, I used a die, a rectangle die, to cut out the card panel. And I'm going to put the lipstick red color behind my card panel. And now I've got some sentiment strips, and I'm going to cut it out where it says hip hip hooray. Not the real big one, there's a little one down there that I am going to use as a sub sentiment. And so I just use one of the Spellbinder's dies as well to cut that out. And I'm going to put that underneath my happy birthday. And I'm just going to tape that down. And I do end up popping up the red cardstock. But this first card panel with all the poppies on it, I'm going to just put on top of the red cardstock, because it's so pretty. I love that lipstick red along with these poppies. It's just beautiful. And as usual, I kind of struggle to get it on straight. And in the end, it makes it there, but it's never easy for me. I'm just using a little bit of liquid glue, and I put it on, I put my tweezers on the wrong side when I start out. And I'm like, wait, I need them on the other side so I can get it where it wants to be. Always something. And I decide to bring out my T-square ruler so I can make sure I actually got that sub-sentiment straight. Even though the happy birthday is not straight, and it's where I want it, I wanted that sub-sentiment to be straight. And I think with the gold flecks of paint, this card is beautiful. And now I am just taking some, I think it's 130 pound, I want to say, I don't remember the name of this cardstock. I got it on Amazon, and it just makes really good card bases. 130 pounds, you don't want to use it for too much else. I think I'll buy a little bit less heavyweight cardstock next time. And I'm going to put a little poppy on the inside of this card in some gray flannel. I want it just to be really light. And I'm going to take a few more stamps. I think they're from Technique Tuesday. Let me look it up. Give me just a second. It is... Yep, Technique Tuesday. And I am going to stamp a little bit of a snarky sentiment on the inside of this card, because I made this card for my daughter and I sent it out to her already. So you're kind of seeing what I'm doing as I'm seeing it again. Usually I have the cards right in front of me when I'm doing a voiceover, but in this case I needed to get it out right away. So I have a sentiment that says, let me see. Don't you love? I got to roll away in my craft room. It says, today is the oldest you've ever been and the youngest you'll ever be, and then 1 year closer to granny panties. I figure that's always a nice sentiment to send my daughter. So yeah, I stamped that on the inside, and I love this little bitty happy birthday stamp set from Technique Tuesday. It's just got some fun, snarky sentiments on it. I just have to remember not to send the same sentiment to the same person. But even if I do, will they remember what I sent them a year ago? Because I know I don't remember what I got a year ago. I don't remember what I got last week. So now I'm just taking some foam tape from a cherry on top. It's 1 inch wide. And I'm putting 4 pieces of foam tape on the back of this. I probably don't need 4. 3 spaced out would have probably worked because it's some nice 100-pound cardstock. But, 4 just makes sure it's not going to get any gaps going through the mail. And it's a thin enough foam tape that it goes through the mail without a problem with just a first-class stamp. As long as you don't pop up a whole lot more, which I did not. This was the only thing that was popped up on this card. And I do end up cutting off that little bit extra that I thought was a little bit too close to the edge. I didn't want it really showing. So I cut that off, which was not a problem. And now using my score buddy, I'm just lining up this card so I don't get it on all crooked and cockeyed, and I still got to kind of work at it because it was trying to jump out of my hand. And that is my birthday card, and I just think it is so pretty. And that's the only actual coloring I did today. I didn't end up coloring any of the other 2 cards that I made. So I've got 2 pattern papers that I'm trying to figure out how exactly I want them on my card. And I'm going to take the sentiment, Big Hugs from Simon Says Stamp, and I am going to use that on this card. It is a great big word sentiment, so I'm going to have to do a landscape card. And I just think a big sentiment works wonderful on this card. And I just was trying to find something. You could use like a smile word die or a hello. I think I've got a great big hello word die too. But in this case, I haven't used this big hug yet. And I bought it like a while ago. So I cut down my pattern paper into like 2 2-inch stripes. I think the striped one that I cut first was like almost 2 1/4. They weren't exactly the same size, I found out after I glued them down, which wasn't a big deal because I'm gluing them side by side, and I'm going to be putting the Big Hugs right on top of the 2. And I'm using some Hero Arts black cardstock for the top layer. And I'm going to layer up the Big Hugs using, I'm going to stack it 3 times. And for the bottom 2 layers, I'm using some cheaper black cardstock that I have. That's not quite as dark as the Hero Arts. Is it called Midnight? Or I don't know. It's a dark color. It's a very, very nice black cardstock, though. And I made sure that I put my little dot that goes over the eye to the side because we don't want to lose that. And I'm just, this is a really pretty scripty sentiment. So I was talking about spring earlier and the nice weather we've been having here in Illinois. I haven't been doing a whole lot. You know, I went to the store today and I did stop by the garden center and looked around because I'm kind of that getting that itch to start planting. It's too early. You don't want to start planting around here until I would say May. But I always plant a garden every year, and I like planting sunflower seeds, the great big ones that get like 6 to 10 feet tall, and then you get the hummingbirds visiting and all sorts of little finches and stuff. They love those sunflower seeds. Now, years ago, when I was about 30, we were still in this house. We've been here forever. My husband bought me like a bird bath for, I want to say Mother's Day. And I'm like, what do I want a bird bath for? It's like, okay, thank you. I mean, it was sweet, but it wasn't really something I had wanted. The neighbor said, why don't you get a bird bath? And so he did. I'm like, well, maybe you should date the neighbor. But here I am, all these years later, and it's like, I want a bird bath. I want a bird bath. Can I have a bird bath, please? I mean, it's funny how your interests change. And now I love bird watching. I love having them in the backyard. I just, yeah, they can make a little bit of a mess. And the dogs like to chase them. They never catch them. But so here I am all these years later, and I no longer have the original bird bath. But my husband did get me one for Christmas, and it's been in the garage just waiting to go out there. So I cannot wait to get that bird bath out, and I think I'll get like a bird feeder and with some seeds to attract it. And I know we've got cardinals in the area, and like I said, hummingbirds, finches, all sorts of things that I just love watching them. They are so much fun. And so that's what's going on with me this month. So I've got a ribbon from my stash, and you're gonna see a white ribbon, and I think it's it's white. Thought I was gonna be really smart and tell you what kind of ribbon it is. I think it might be Grosgain. Ugh, I can't even say it. But anyhow, I pull it out of my stash and I'm going to use it. And I'm just trying to decide whether I want to go portrait or landscape with my big hugs. And in the end, I go landscape. And because I don't have my card front on a card base yet, I am able to tape down my ribbon and, tie it off in the back, or tape it off in the back. And I put a piece of double-sided tape right here. I think that's just some Spellbinders double-sided tape. Came in one of their card kits. Nothing fancy. It doesn't have to be real strong because I just want to keep the ribbon from like shifting. So it does perfect holding it down right where I want it. And I put a couple pieces of tape on the back just to hold my ribbon as well. And I do like to tie my bows separately from my ribbon. I find I get a much neater look just by gluing the bow on top of the ribbon. And I like to try to do it, I do smaller bows using the bunny ear method of tying a bow, because I find my tails end up both facing the same way, facing down. Whereas if you kind of do the loop around method of making a bow, like you tie your shoes, you usually end up with one tail kind of facing down and one facing a little bit more up. Unless you're my husband and still uses bunny ears to tie shoes, which is so cute. He just, he can make those bunny ears quicker than I can do a loop and a wraparound bow. It's just what he's always done. And so, I let him teach our kids how to tie their shoes, because it was a lot more easy to teach them to do bunny ears when they were really little than it was to do the wraparound. Of course, he's still the only one who still ties his shoes with bunny ears, but shh, don't tell anybody. Like I said, it's adorable. So I like to put little glue dots down when I am putting my bow. I put 5 glue dots, one for each bow and one for the tail and one for the center of the bow. And I also use some liquid glue in the center of the bow to make sure that the bow does not go anywhere. So the liquid glue dries nice and secures that bow better than the glue dots even do. But the glue dots make sure that the tails don't go anywhere and the bow stays exactly where I want it. And the reason I'm putting the bow on first instead of the sentiment is no reason. I just was messing with the ribbon, and so I decided to put the bow on. And that way I didn't have to worry about my sentiment being in the way of the bow either. And I'm just putting it on with some liquid glue, the sentiment that is, because it is such a big sentiment that the liquid glue went on really easy. I had no trouble putting it down. It wasn't like I had to try to get it down, and it was just like, I like using the Simon Says glue dot sheets if I have smaller, skinnier sentiments and things that would be a pain to use liquid glue or tape runner. So I am just slapping down my big hugs. I don't want it straight. I want it kind of, as you can see, kind of going up at a little angle. The big goes kind of up, and then the hugs I put kind of going the opposite angle down. And it was kind of fun putting the glue on the back of this sentiment, trying to see if I could do cursive backwards with a glue bottle. So we got our big hugs going down right there. And you can see I've still got the 3 dots for the eye. And I just had to make sure I got the cheap black paper down for the first 2 dots. And the top one was the Hero Arts. I don't know that you could see the difference in the video, but there is a difference. I think the black paper I used for the 2 layers was Recollections from Michaels. It was a very thin cardstock as well. And now I am going to bring in some generic jewels after I make my card base. I like it. I get ahead of myself sometimes here. So again, this is just a portrait or a landscape card base. A2, and I'm going to use a little bit of tape runner. No popping up anything on this card because we do have the bow that gives a little bit dimension if we send it through the mail. So I didn't want it to be too much because I'm a little bit cheap and I don't want to pay extra to go through the mail. So I am bringing out some red jewels from my stash that I bought on Amazon like I don't know, probably 5 years ago. They've just been in my stash. And I used up most of the red ones at Christmas, but I've still got enough to put on this card. And I'm putting 3 in each corner on the upper right and the lower left. And this card is done, and it's just so pretty, and I should have showed it to you longer. Now here are the Transparencies from Tim Holtz. Going through them really quick because I wanted you to see how pretty these are, and I just think any one of them would be lovely on a card front. They're just very, very nice. But because I love the confetti, the gold confetti that came in this kit, and we've got these Transparencies, I am going to make a shaker card. And this is the least likely transparency that you would probably put on a card front. So that's the one we're going to use. I'm like, which one? You know, could this way, using this transparency, I'm not worried about taking away from it. And there was only one other transparency that really had a nice big circle that, you know, we could exploit for a shaker. So I'm going to be using the pattern paper that's got the dots within dots. I went through all of these trying to see which one would look good for the shaker. And I end up with a real neutral one again, which is, yeah, it's got little circles with little dots in the dots, and it's just, I love it. And so I am going to cut out a circle with a Hero Arts circle die. And so that's going to work beautifully to put this transparency behind this pattern paper. And I am taping that to a piece of cardstock because I wanted to have a nice sturdy background when we cut it out, because that's what we're going to be putting on top of our card base. And I've got the 2 and the circle dies out, but I only end up using the 1. There's really no reason to cut out a smaller circle die. And I'm going to put the circle that I cut out on the back of the card, base, so we're not wasting any of this pattern paper. And I'm just running it through my Gemini Junior, and boom, magic editing. That's like done immediately. And I've got some Spellbinders tape there that hopefully every once in a while, if you're not careful, I find you can still tear your paper using it. So you got to be careful to peel it back on itself. And now I am just using my ATG to try to get it all sticky so I can put down the transparency. And I get a little bit flustered when I'm doing this card, and I'm like, what am I doing? I don't want tape on my glass mats, so I just put this piece of paper on top of a scrap of black cardstock that was off to the side. And I've got like tape runner all over the back of this, and so I end up bringing in a silicone mat because I don't want that to stick. You can see me just messing with it still. Isn't that exciting? And here I am out in the wild messing with my cardstock. But yeah, it's got tape on the back, so I just put it on top of the silicone so I didn't have to worry about the tape getting all over my glass mat, because I do have a lot of times I get like tape runner on my glass mat, and it can be a pain to get off. I end up having to bring in sharp implements to scrape it off. And I am going to use some white stays on ink, and it's the first time I used it to stamp a poppy. Now, I think in hindsight, I would have been better off maybe using some black stays on, because you really can't see the poppy that I stamped on. And I just made a liar out of myself. I am stamping Happy Thoughts with some Hero Arts Intense Black ink first, I guess. And you can see I still have the like the acetate sheet over my sticky mat, because there is still the ATG tape on the back of my card front. So I didn't want to get sticky on sticky, because I was afraid that might ruin my sticky mat. And come on, now there it is. There's where my stays on is, and the poppy. Like I said, I think black might have worked better, or if I had some sort of brown archival or like brown stays on. I'm not sure what all will stamp on acetate. I know that the white stays on will, black stays on. I mean, any of the colors that stays on. I'm not sure about other types of ink. So yeah, I just stamp out the poppy in white on top of my transparency. And you can see it when you're kind of looking at it, but it's not really in your face. It's really subtle. And it was worth doing. It's strange the way you have to put your ink on the pad before you can even use it, though. You have to like put 5 to 8 drops on and then cover it back up again. And I'll probably have to use the drops of ink next time I use it. And now I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing. There is my card front. And I am gluing the circle background to the card front, and then that my acetate sheet with the Tim Holtz Transparency is going to go right over the top of that. And I think I made it through this voiceover pretty well until I got to this card. And for some reason, I am just struggling to inform you on what I am doing with this card. Now, I'm using the foam tape that came in the kit, the little strips. I'm not sure of the thickness of these strips, so I just use it for the entire card back. I'm sure I could have found some other foam tape in my stash that was probably wider and I wouldn't have to use as many strips, but what the heck, I had this in front of me, so I used it. And now there I remember to use my anti-static tool. I might not remember it when I'm embossing, but I remembered it there, and it still didn't do a great job. These confetti pieces still jumped up like the acetate was their long lost lover and wanted to get all over it, so you know, they cling really bad to the acetate. Sometimes they even like stand up on their side. They're so happy to see the acetate. Luckily they didn't do that to me this time, but you could see them starting to try to jump right there. It's like magic. And I just use my score buddy to line up everything nice and neat. And it's so much fun to shake these. And those, you know, that gold confetti that came with this kit is such a pretty color. And so I decide that I want to take a couple more pieces of the confetti, and I'm going to glue it right on top of the cards. So, you know, you could admire it both inside the shaker window, and you could admire the color right there on the top of the card as well. And that was going to be it for my 3 cards. So if you enjoyed this video, or you just were hate watching it and enjoy yelling at me, please give it a thumbs up anyway. That helps the algorithm. I'd love to have you as a subscriber if you're not already. That helps the algorithm even more, and it helps me out a whole lot. I am going to try to get these videos out in a timely manner. This one I got out actually before April, so hey, I'm doing pretty good here. So anyway, these are my 3 cards, and I think they all turned out pretty nice. I'm gonna have to do more coloring because that looked beautiful. I love those poppies. So this was a whole lot of fun. If you stuck by me to the end of this video, thank you so much. And bye-bye for now, everyone.